Welcome to my darkroom. I would love to be making a video right now about what I'm doing in the darkroom because I am working on some stuff. That's not what this video is about. Right now the upstairs is completely chaotic because we're repainting, wallpapering and texturizing walls, and so there isn't really a good place for me to make a video. And I was feeling a little bit stuck about that, and then I was like, why aren't you just making videos in your darkroom where you do all of your photography stuff? So that's where we are right now, and I hope that you like this setup. I'm taking an old camera of mine with a very old microphone that's shutting stuff everywhere, and I actually have studio lights to brighten me. Last month, me and a few other photographers went on a road trip to the Alabama Hills to take Milky Way photos. We had done this last year, and I actually made a video on that, so look past if you want to see a video on the very first time I ever went to the Alabama Hills. But this year we decided to go again to take Milky Way shots, and lo and behold, it was the weekend that the Aurora Borealis was actually showing in California, which is unheard of. So I really wanted to make a video about that. At the same time, I've written a lot about it and I've talked to a lot of people about it. And even though I've talked about this so many times, I still would like the story to be told because it was so magical, so fun, and just kind of one of these crazy experiences that happens in your life that I really wanted to document it and have it out there for posterity, and someday I'll look back and be like, oh yeah, that happened. So it started out with me driving about 4.5 hours from where I live in California, in the middle of California, down to Bakersfield, and then back up to Lone Pine on the eastern side of the Sierra mountainscape. So as the bird flies, it's like directly east of where I live, but because of the mountain range, you have to drive south and then come back up again. So we got over there. On the way, there was lots of clouds, lots of what looked like storm situations happening. I kept checking the weather app on my phone, and it was like some rainstorm, or some rain, some sprinkles, something like that. I can't remember, but it didn't seem like it was going to be super devastating, but at the same time it was a little bit nerve-wracking. But we got over there with minimal rain, and then really it was just rain clouds without the rain the entire time we were there. Or not the entire time, I take that back, the first day that we were there. But it offered the most beautiful photos to take because you were in a stormy environment without the rain. So it basically was like chef's kiss for a photographer. So we take photos all that day and walk a very long time to get to a certain landmark that we had missed the very first part of the walk. So we went a lot farther than we meant to, and then ended up coming back and then finding it, and just enjoying the day. And then that night rolled around. We had also gone to scout a spot to take Milky Way photos for that night, and found a place within this gulch that was in the area. And thankfully, nobody had ever been down this road that went like inside of a gulch. And the only reason why we even found it was because one of the main roads to get to Alabama Hills, or Whitney Portal Road, was shut down due to the hurricanes of the previous year. And so, was it a hurricane? There was really bad weather last year, and it really destroyed a lot of the desert landscape of the southern area of California. There was just a lot of road closures. So there was the main road closure. We went around it and found this extremely beautiful gulch winding through these rocks and trees and stuff on the side of you, and a little cave that was creepy but fun. And then we took some more photographs of this really beautiful spot, and we got to the point where it was towards the end of the evening, and we were like, do we want to stay up to take Milky Way photos tonight, or do we want to get some sleep and take Milky Way photos the next night? We ultimately decided the next night would be better because there had been that storm that had gone through, and there was a chance there was going to be a lot of cloud coverage. And sometimes clouds can enhance nightscapes, but for the most part it just makes it look kind of dingy, at least in my eyes. We decided to go to bed early that night and instead take Milky Way photos the next night. So one of my friends, Jan, went back to her hotel in Lone Pine. Me and Josh stayed at the campsite. He was in a trailer, I was in a tent, and we are just eating like freeze-dried, heat up water and have soup kind of meals before going to bed. And we get a phone call from Jan that's like, oh my gosh, the Northern Lights are out and they are shining in this area and we need to go take photos. So she drove back up to the campsite. We throw all of our gear into Josh's truck and head off towards Mobius Arch, which is a famous kind of arch or landmark within the Alabama Hills. And to clarify, Alabama Hills is in California. I don't think I said that earlier, but in case you didn't know, it's next to a little town called Lone Pine, and it is where a bunch of old Western TVs shows and Western movies were filmed back in the day. So it's a landmark of California. We go to Mobius Arch. We run into two other friends that we were like triangulating, where are you gonna be, because they were coming in later in the evening than what we arrived earlier during the day. And so we all get there to Mobius Arch. We set up our cameras on the tripod where we think would be a good view, and our eyes adjust to the nighttime and you start to see it. The only other time that I've seen the Northern Lights was in Montana when I was like 12 or something, and it was green ribbony things kind of floating across the sky on the horizon. This was maroon, magenta, purple, pink colors like coming up as columns from the ground up into the sky from a distance. Incredibly surreal, incredibly beautiful. It was mind-boggling, and I honestly forgot to take any video clips after this. Like, I had meant to take video clips all weekend long and I did not, because I feel like, well, one, I was flabbergasted that we were even seeing this. I was in complete denial that we were actually gonna see it, even when we were driving over to the place to set up our tripods. Like, I was like, this isn't actually gonna happen. But it was so surreal and so beautiful that I just forgot to take any other video. So that's why I'm doing a sit-down talk now. Another thing was that we stayed up so late the first night and then had to get up early the next morning, because as soon as the sun hits the tent, it's like blazing hot. So I couldn't sleep in. I tried, I could not. So there was no sleep that much, or there wasn't that much sleep that night, and the next day was kind of like a wash of just waiting for the night to roll around so that we could go out and take Milky Way shots. So that's basically what we did. The next night we went out again we went to a different arch called Cyclops Arch, I think, or Cyclops Skull Rock. I don't know. It's another one of the arches in Alabama Hills, but it's got the shape of a skull, but with only one big circle to make the Cyclops name of it, so it looks like a skull of an alien with one eye. And we were gonna get Milky Way shots that way, but also behind us the Aurora Borealis was still popping out. So we also got shots to the north of the Aurora Borealis. And I think one of the cool things when you look back at my photographs that I got is there are some landscape shots where the mountains and the rock are highlighted in pink. And it's because the Northern Lights behind me are like shining that light onto the landscape even though it's nighttime. And I just found that, like, that wasn't me deciding to colorize the rock, that was just the tone of the landscape because of the Aurora Borealis behind me. All in all, it was one of those trips where, like I said earlier, it was just really magical. I just keep going back to it being a magical trip. There were things like little wildflowers that were everywhere that last year I hadn't seen, and I feel like if we'd been there just for like a few more days, it probably wouldn't have been there anymore. It was just like during that little weekend that we were there was sproutings of wildflowers, there was this beautiful storm that rolled through, and there was the Aurora Borealis, and there was the Milky Way, and it just set up for the most magical weekend ever. I don't know where the camera cut off, but all I'm gonna say is magical weekend. I encourage other photographers to get out and take that hard shot, because it's gonna reward you more than any other just haphazardly walking around and capturing a moment shots. And not that those are bad, because I do a lot of that. That's like my bread and butter. But go out, take photographs, go out and explore, and go out and have a good time while capturing life. Yeah, I hope you enjoy my photographs from this trip. video voice. Like, how am I talking right now? I usually have a very deep register. Anyways,